Hey guys, this is Dr. Hub. Today we'll look at the scales, and this is of the data measurement. So to begin with, the data, it can be quantitative or qualitative. So there is quantitative data as well as there is qualitative data. So quantitative means there is a numerical values, and qualitative means it can be types as well as the labels. So what is discrete data? So first we need to know what is discrete data. So discrete data is basically take the certain values and none in between. They can take certain values and none in between So what is the example of the discrete data? The example, it includes the number of cancer patients in hospital, the number of the cancer patients in the hospital. Next, we look at the continuous data. So continuous data. So continuous data, the description will be that it can take any value, any value, and usually is between the limits or range. It is between the limits or the range. Now, what is the example here? The example may be the most biomedical data is continuous. So mostly of the biomedical data, you can tell it is continuous. Next, also the height, weight, blood pressure. The height, weight, or the blood pressure. These are all continuous. In discrete, we saw the number of cancer patients in hospital. That was discrete data. Next, let's look at the data. So the data, it always forms one of 4 scale measurements. So this one of 4 scale measurements. So first, let's look at the nominal. So in terms of nominal scale data, the examples being the male, female, then red or green. Next, the suburban or the rural. So they are some examples. In terms of the nominal scale data, they have no qualitative value. So they have no qualitative value, and they have no order of ratio. There is no order of ratio. Next is the type. The type is, it is qualitative. Next, we'll move on to the ordinal scale data. So ordinal scale data, the examples can include the student ranked first 2-3, the students with the 1, 2 and the 3rd rank. They are ordinal data. And also a customer feedback survey. Customer feedback survey by using a very good, good and poor. So you can use several things like the very good, good, poor and very poor. So this is nothing but the Likert scale. So the severity of the disease can be mild, moderate or severe. So the disease, it can be mild, it can be moderate, or it can be severe as well. Next is in case of ordinal data, ordinal scale, it is arranged in a meaningful order. So arrangement is in meaningful order, and there is a no size interval is defined, and there is no size interval is defined. And what is the type of this? The type is, it is qualitative. Next, let's look at the interval scale. So in terms of interval scale, the example is there's a measurement on the Celsius scale. So interval will be the measurement in terms of the Celsius scale. This is the interval scale data. So what is some important points? So they are arranged in a meaningful order. They are arranged in the meaningful order. So they are arranged in terms of meaningful order, and this is with a well-defined size interval. So it is a well-defined size interval. So then we are looking at the example. What we are discussing now is the interval scale data. So the example is the temperature in terms of Celsius, and if the temperature A is 40 degrees Celsius, so if you say A is 40 degrees Celsius and say B is 20 degrees Celsius, so A is 40 degrees Celsius and B is 20 degrees Celsius, then A is 20 degrees Celsius hotter than B. So A is greater than 20 degrees Celsius than B. So this is by taking the difference. And it does not have absolute zero. So there is no absolute zero in terms of the interval scale. There is no absolute zero. Next is, what is the example here? The example here is that Celsius scale has no such thing as no temperature. So Celsius scale doesn't have a zero, that is no temperature. It doesn't have a no temperature, and so the value cannot be zero. So this is also, it is qualitative. It is qualitative. And lastly, we'll be looking at the ratio scale data. Ratio scale data. So ratio scale data, the examples here, it includes a pulse rate. So the pulse rate, it is arranged in a meaningful order. Arranged in a meaningful order. Meaningful order. And this is with a well-defined interval. So well-defined interval. And the example here, it includes, there is a pulse rate and has a well-defined intervals and is a meaningful. There is well-defined intervals and is meaningful in comparison. Meaningful in comparison. Then 100 per minute pulse is exactly twice as the example. 100 per minute is exactly equal to twice the 50 per minute. So this has an absolute zero. So the ratio scale data has an absolute zero. And the example is, there can be a value of 0 for pulse. The example is, there can be value 0 for pulse. So what type of data is? This is going to be qualitative data.